Leaving Augusta at noon on May 28th with a brief layover in Atlanta, I flew nonstop from Atlanta to Tokyo, arriving there at about 4:30 p.m. on May 29th. On our first full day in Tokyo, we rode on the incredibly complex but efficient subway to Uno Park, a spacious park established in 1873 on the grounds of a former temple. The home of several major museums, it is noted for its nearly 1,200 cherry trees, awash with color every spring, and it is the most popular city park in all of Japan. Walking through this department store was like taking a step back in time. Though on a much grander scale, it reminded me of department stores in Augusta in the 1950s. Even the elevators had operators who were dressed in store uniforms and virtually choreographed in their movements each time the elevator stopped. On the 31st, we took a train to the coastal city of Kamakura, the seat of the first shogun-controlled government in Japan from the 12th to the 14th centuries. Although the shoguns were inferior to the emperor in class, as warriors they ran the military, and after a time the emperor became more of a figurehead than an actual ruler. At this temple, as at other temples and shrines which we visited on our trip, several in our group observed some of the ritualistic Buddhist and Shinto practices. That was definitely not my thing. These little statues of the so-called Jizo Buddha were placed by parents who were mourning the loss of offspring due to miscarriage, stillbirth, or abortion. Dating from 1252 AD and originally surrounded by a building, this enormous bronze Buddha has been in the open air since 1458 AD. It is 44 feet tall and weighs 135 tons. It is hollow, but none of our group took the opportunity to go inside. This Shinto shrine in Tokyo is dedicated to the deified spirits of Emperor Meiji and his wife, the Empress Shokin. Meiji, who was born in 1852, reigned as emperor from 1867 until his death in 1912. The Empress Shokin died in 1914. Even today, they are both much revered and even deified by the people of Japan. especially the Empress because of her charitable work done during her husband's reign. Meiji essentially brought Japan into the 20th century, only for all his good works to go to naught when the military began to grow in power during the reign of his successor, leading, of course, to World War II. There were many banners throughout the park describing the history of Japan. I noticed that there was a gap from the time of Shokin's death until the late 1940s. I asked our trip leader Yumi about that, and she replied that discussion of that time period is very controversial even today in Japan, and that many Japanese people want simply to forget those years entirely.
Missing out on so funny.
Kusunoki Masashige was a 14th century samurai warrior who fought for the reigning emperor in his attempt to wrest rulership of Japan away from the shoguns, and he is remembered as the ideal of samurai loyalty. This statue is outside the grounds of the imperial palace. The palace grounds and the palace itself are not open to the public. Had the day been clear, we should have been able to see Mount Fuji in the distance.